after the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
Anscheinend gehört sie dir noch nicht ganz.
Apparently it's not quite yours yet. I think there's still some remodeling taking place.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we began this conference on Friday when the information came that there were victims of an attack here in Munich. And we end this with the news that we have received that 2 people were actually killed. And as the Munich Security Conference is very close to this city, we mourn together today these victims, and our thoughts are with the families and the loved ones of the victims, and we wish the wounded speedy recovery. Ladies and gentlemen, this was certainly one of the most significant Munich security conferences. There were more than 50 heads of state and government, roughly 150 ministers, around 30 heads of international organizations. With Ewald von Kleist, this conference started as a transatlantic conference. After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. I'm very grateful to all those European politicians that spoke out and reaffirmed the values and principles that they are defending. No one did this better than President Zelensky, who has been fighting for these values, democracy, freedom, rule of law, for the past 3 years. The message from Munich is clear. Europe is not nice to have, Europe is a must-have. As NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said, we should stop complaining about being sidelined, but come to the table with concrete ideas and spending pledges. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the only way to actually get a seat at the negotiating table. I'm also glad that we had some concrete ideas, including by Commission President von der Leyen, who proposed an exemption from the EU's fiscal rules for defense spending. More proposals have to follow, and I'm happy that EU High Representative Kaja Kallas brought together the EU foreign ministers this morning for an emergency meeting here in Munich, and that President Macron is preparing for a European leaders meeting for an emergency summit tomorrow in Paris. We Europeans need a plan for peace on our continent. As Kaja Kallas, this year's winner of the Kleist Prize, said last night, we should not fall into the trap of appeasement. It did not work in 1938. It will not work today. Putin smells weakness. He only reacts to strength. When you read the headlines about this conference, it might look like it was only about transatlantic relations and Ukraine. Let me remind you that it was not. 30% of the speakers on our stages were from Africa, Asia, Latin America. And we spoke about a broad range of global challenges, including climate change, which John Kerry, last year's winner of the von Kleist Prize, called the greatest challenge to mankind. We addressed energy, cyber and food security, as well as global health and economic security. One issue that I want to single out is the global gender backlash we are experiencing. It was all the more important to have gender balance on our panels, and we had this for the third year in a row, as you saw just before. Our mission is to promote peace through dialogue, and we addressed a broad range of conflicts. One of them was, of course, the situation in the Middle East, and I'm glad that our Middle East consultation group came together throughout the whole weekend. We also addressed tensions in the Indo-Pacific and the increasingly clear linkages to European security. And it was very important to me to discuss conflicts that receive less media attention here in Europe, such as those in Sudan, where we have more than 10 million refugees, the gravest crisis we have. And it was a bit hard that some of the countries responsible for this were not ready to sit on a round table. The DRC, we had a very lively debate here between the President Tshisekedi and Kagame. It became already almost a bit physical, but this is what this is about, peace through dialogue, and we had to hear that our rules-based beliefs the order is difficult, but focus on strengthening their consistent application. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult. To this set of norms and principles on the base, and we had Haiti on the agenda. It is clear that our rules-based international order is under pressure. It is my strong belief that this more multipolar world needs to be based on a single set of norms and principles, on the UN Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This order is